Welcome to English in Fluency. I am so glad you decided to join me today because we are going to talk about something that happens every single time you have a conversation in English, but nobody really teaches you how to listen for it. I am Alex, and I want you to imagine a situation for me. You are sitting in a coffee shop with a friend. You are listening to them talk about their day. You understand the words. You know the grammar. But when they finish talking, you realize you have no idea what the most important part of their story was. You missed the point completely. Have you ever felt that way? It is incredibly frustrating, right? You feel like you studied all these vocabulary lists and did all your grammar exercises, but real life just moves too fast. Well, let me tell you a secret. Native speakers do not just speak faster. They use a hidden tool to point you exactly to what matters. And that tool is repetition. Today, we are going to do some serious B1 English listening practice. We are going to train your ears to catch emphasis through repetition. When someone repeats a word or a phrase, they are not doing it because they forgot what they just said. They are doing it because they are holding up a giant sign that says, "Look here, this is what you need to notice." So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let me show you exactly how to hear what speakers want you to hear. Think about how you speak your own language. When you are giving directions to someone, and you know they are about to miss their turn, you do not just say it once. You say, "Turn left here, left, turn left." You repeat it because you want to make sure it sticks in their brain. English speakers do the exact same thing, but sometimes it is a little more hidden. Sometimes we repeat whole phrases, and sometimes we just repeat one tiny word. But every single time we do it, there is a reason. And if you can train your brain to hear that reason, your listening skills will improve overnight. You will stop feeling lost in conversations, and you will start feeling like you are really inside the moment with the person. That is the goal for us today. I want you to feel completely confident the next time someone starts repeating themselves in English. I want you to smile to yourself and think, "I know exactly why you just said that twice." Let us jump right into our first story. I want you to close your eyes if you can, or just focus really hard on the audio. Imagine you are standing in a small kitchen. It is a little messy because two people have been cooking all afternoon. Their names are Maya and Julian. Maya is trying to organize a surprise birthday party for her brother. She is very stressed. Julian is her friend, and he is trying to help her stay calm. Listen carefully to how Maya speaks, and listen for what she repeats. Julian says to her, "Maya, just tell me what we need to do next. We have the food. We have the drinks. What is left?" And Maya replies, "We need to get the cake. We have to pick up the cake. The cake is the most important thing." Julian says, "Okay, fine. We will go get the cake." "But what time does the bakery close?" Maya says, 6 o'clock. "They close at 6 o'clock. We have to leave right now because it is 6 o'clock. Now, if you were just translating words, you might think Maya is just talking about the time. But if you listen to her repetition, what is she actually telling you? She is telling you that time is running out. The repetition of 6 o'clock is a warning. She is pushing the urgency. She wants Julian to feel the pressure. When you hear someone repeat a time or a deadline like that, your brain should immediately say, "This is an emergency. We need to move. Let us listen to another part of their conversation." Julian grabs his keys and says, "Okay, okay, I am going." But where did you park the car? Maya says, I parked it on the street. On the street, Julian, not in the lot. Do not go to the lot. Julian says, right, on the street. Why does Maya repeat on the street? She repeats it because she knows Julian usually parks in the lot. She is anticipating a mistake. She is using repetition to correct a habit before it happens. This is a very common use of repetition in English. When a speaker thinks you might do the wrong thing, they will say the right thing twice to block your mistake. So when you are listening, if you hear someone repeat a location, a name, or a specific instruction, ask yourself, what mistake are they trying to prevent? That is how you catch the hidden meaning. I want you to take a moment right now to think about a time when you gave instructions to someone in your own language. Maybe you were teaching a friend how to cook a recipe. You probably said something like, add the salt slowly, slowly. Do not dump it in. You repeated the word slowly because you wanted to emphasize the method. In English, we do this constantly in the workplace, in schools, and at home. It is a way of guiding the listener without being rude. We do not say, you are going to do this wrong, so listen to me. Instead, we just repeat the important word. Let us go back to Maya and Julian in the kitchen. They are now rushing to the door. Julian has his jacket on. He says, okay, I will be back in 20 minutes with the cake. And then Maya stops him. She looks him dead in the eye and says, do not tell Leo. Julian, do not tell Leo about the cake. Promise me you will not tell Leo. Why does she say his name 3 times? She is building emotional weight. She is not just giving information anymore. She is asking for a promise. The repetition of the name Leo turns a simple sentence into a serious moment. If she just said, do not tell him, it would sound casual. But by repeating the name, she makes Julian feel the importance of the secret. As a listener, when you hear a name or a pronoun repeated over and over, you should feel the emotion going up. The speaker is saying, pay attention to me. This is serious. Now, let us change the scene completely. I want you to imagine a different situation. This is an office setting. It is Monday morning. 2 co-workers are standing by the coffee machine. Their names are Chloe and Sarah. Sarah looks very tired. She is holding her coffee cup with both hands. Chloe walks in and says, hey Sarah, you look exhausted. What happened? Sarah sighs and says, I worked all weekend. I worked Saturday and I worked Sunday. I just worked and worked. Now, listen to that repetition. She repeats the word worked. She does not say, I had a busy weekend. She says, I worked, I worked, I worked. What does this repetition tell you? It tells you she is complaining. She wants Chloe to feel her tiredness. She is using repetition to show frustration. When someone repeats an action verb like that, they are usually expressing a negative emotion. They feel like they did too much of that thing. Let us keep listening to them. Chloe says, oh no, did your boss make you do that? Sarah says, no, I volunteered. I said I would do the report. But it was so long. It was a 50-page report, 50 pages. I had to read 50 pages of data. Sarah repeats 50 pages. She is emphasizing the size of the problem. She wants Chloe to be shocked. She wants Chloe to say, wow, that is a lot. The repetition here is a cry for sympathy. When you are listening to English and someone repeats a number or a measurement, they are usually trying to impress you or get you to agree with them that a situation is difficult. Chloe understands this. Chloe says, 50 pages. Are you serious? That is crazy. And Sarah feels better because Chloe caught the emphasis. This is a beautiful part of human communication. We repeat things to connect with each other. Sarah did not just want to give Chloe the news. She wanted Chloe to feel sorry for her. And by repeating the difficult parts of her story, she forced Chloe to react. You can use this skill every day. When you are watching an English movie, or listening to a podcast, or talking to your English-speaking friends, just wait for the repetition. When it comes, ask yourself what they want you to feel. Do they want you to be scared? Do they want you to laugh? Do they want you to agree with them? Once you start noticing this, you will see it everywhere. It is like putting on a pair of glasses that suddenly makes everything clear. Let us try another scenario. This one is a little faster. I want you to imagine a train station. It is loud. There are announcements playing over the speakers. People are rushing around. Two friends, Sam and David, are running. They are late for their train. Sam is looking at his phone. David is looking at the big signs on the wall. David yells, "Which platform? Sam, which platform is it?" Sam looks up from his phone and says, "Platform 9, Platform 9, it is Platform 9. David says, "I do not see it. Where is Platform 9? Sam says, "Right there, 9, 9. Look at the sign, 9. In this situation, the repetition is not about emotion. It is about clarity in a noisy environment. When people are stressed, or when it is loud, they strip away extra words. They just say the most important word over and over. Platform 9, 9, 9. If you are in a busy airport, or a loud restaurant, or a construction site, you will hear this kind of repetition all the time. People drop the grammar and just repeat the noun. It is a survival tool for communication. If you are ever in an English-speaking country and you feel overwhelmed by the noise and the speed, just listen for the repeated nouns. That will tell you exactly what people are looking for or trying to do. You do not need to understand the whole sentence. If a taxi driver says, "Address, address," what is the address? You know exactly what he needs. You do not need to parse the grammar of the question. The repetition gives you the answer. Now I want us to look at a different kind of repetition. So far we have looked at urgency, preventing mistakes, complaining, and noisy environments. But what about good news? How do we use repetition when we are happy? Imagine a girl named Emma. She is sitting in a park with her friend Lucas. Emma has been looking for a new job for 6 months. She has had many interviews, and she has failed all of them. She is feeling very sad. Lucas sits next to her on the bench and says, "So, did you hear back from the bank today?" Emma looks at him, and her face starts to break into a huge smile. She says, "I got it." "Lucas, I got it. I actually got the job." "I got it." Listen to how happy she sounds. She repeats, "I got it" 3 times. But notice how the repetition changes slightly each time. First she says, "I got it," just a statement. Then she says, "Lucas, I got it." She adds his name to pull his attention in. Then she says, "I actually got the job." She expands the phrase to give more detail. And finally she finishes with, "I got it." This is a very natural pattern in English. When we are excited, we repeat the good news, but we add little words to it each time to build the excitement. It is like a wave rising up. If you just said, "I got it" once, it would sound boring. But by repeating it and expanding it, you make the other person feel your joy. Lucas reacts perfectly. He says, "Wait, really? You got it? You actually got the job?" Notice that Lucas copies her repetition. This is called mirroring. When someone gives you good news and repeats it, it is very natural in English to repeat it back to them in the form of a question. You got it? Really? It shows that you are sharing their excitement. So when you are practicing your listening, pay attention to how people react to good news. If you hear someone repeat a positive phrase, you know you are witnessing a moment of pure happiness. Let us take a deeper look at how repetition changes the feeling of a sentence. I want you to think about the word very. In English, we use very to make a word stronger. But in spoken English, we often skip the word very and just repeat the adjective instead. If I say, "It is very cold outside," that is good grammar. But if I say, "It is cold," "It is so cold," that sounds much more natural and human. The repetition of the word cold makes me feel the temperature more than the word very does. Imagine a man named Oliver. He is talking to his wife, Penelope, about their heating bill. Oliver says, "Penelope, we need to fix the heater. It is freezing in this house. It is freezing." Penelope says, "I know, it is cold, but we cannot afford to fix it right now." Oliver says, "No, you do not understand. It is freezing. I can see my breath. It is freezing." Oliver repeats, "freezing." He does not say it is very cold. He repeats the strongest word he knows to make Penelope understand the physical reality of the situation. When you listen to native speakers, you will notice they do this all the time. They repeat extreme adjectives to show that they mean it literally. It is not just a figure of speech. They are trying to make you see what they see and feel what they feel. So when you hear an adjective repeated 2 or 3 times in a row, your brain should translate that to maximum intensity. It is the speaker's way of saying, "I am not exaggerating. This is real." We should also talk about how repetition helps us tell stories. When people tell stories in English, they use a structure. They set the scene. They introduce a problem, and then they build up to the climax. Repetition is a massive part of building up to the climax. Think about a grandfather telling a story to his grandson. His name is Arthur, and the grandson is named Felix. Arthur says, "I was walking in the woods. I was walking, and it was getting dark. I kept walking, and then I heard a sound." The repetition of walking creates a feeling of time passing. It makes the listener feel the journey. It builds suspense. If Arthur just said, "I walked in the woods and heard a sound," it would be boring. But by repeating the action, he makes Felix feel like he is right there walking with him. Let us listen to Arthur finish the story. Arthur says, "I stopped walking. I stood completely still. And I heard it again. A crack. A loud crack. Right behind me. A crack." He repeats the word crack. This is the climax of the story. The repetition of the sound effect makes it scary. It forces the listener to focus on that one tiny detail. When you are listening to someone tell a story in English, wait for the moment they start repeating a sound or a specific action. That is the moment the story gets exciting. That is the peak of the emotion. If you can learn to anticipate this, you will enjoy listening to English stories so much more, because you will feel the rhythm of the storytelling. I want to pause here for a second and talk directly to you about your practice. If you want to get better at this, you need to do something very simple. You need to start talking to yourself in English. I know that sounds a little strange, but it works. When you are alone in your room, try to describe your day, but force yourself to use repetition. Say, "I was so tired today. I was tired at work. I was tired when I got home. I am just tired. By doing this, you are teaching your brain to connect emotions with repeated words. And once your brain makes that connection, your ears will start hearing it automatically when other people speak. It is like training a muscle. You have to use it in a controlled way before you can use it in a real game. So stand in front of your mirror or sit in your car and practice being dramatic. Practice repeating words to show happiness, to show anger, to show fear. The more you do it, the better you will understand it when you hear it in the real world. Let us move on to a slightly more advanced form of repetition. Sometimes, native speakers do not repeat the exact same word. They repeat the same idea using different words. This is called parallel structure. Imagine two friends, Rachel and Nathan. Rachel is giving Nathan advice about his girlfriend. Rachel says, "You need to listen to her. You need to actually hear what she is saying. You have to pay attention to her feelings." Now, she did not repeat the word listen. She said listen. Then she said hear what she is saying. Then she said pay attention to her feelings. But all three phrases mean the exact same thing. Why does she do this? She does it because she wants to be completely clear. She does not want Nathan to misunderstand. When someone uses different words to say the same thing 3 times in a row, they are making sure there is zero confusion. They are giving you 3 chances to understand the message. This happens a lot in business meetings. A boss might say, "We need to increase our sales. We have to grow our revenue. We must bring in more money." 3 different ways to say the same thing. But the repetition of the idea tells you that this is the #1 priority. When you are listening to a speech or a presentation, count how many times the speaker says the same idea in different words. The more they repeat the idea, the more important it is. It is a fantastic listening strategy. You do not have to catch every single difficult vocabulary word. If you hear them talking about the same concept 3 times, you know that is the main point. Let us go back to a casual conversation to see how this works in daily life. Imagine a mother, Grace, talking to her son, Ethan. Ethan wants to stay out late with his friends. Grace says, "Ethan, you need to come home early tonight. You have school tomorrow. You cannot be out late on a school night. It is a bad idea to stay out late when you have to wake up early." Grace repeats the idea of coming home early and the idea of school. She changes the words, but the message is exactly the same. She is building a wall of reasons around her rule. She wants Ethan to see that there are many ways to look at the situation, and all of them lead to the same conclusion. He needs to come home. As a listener, if you hear someone giving you multiple reasons that all point to the same conclusion, you should realize that they are very firm on their decision. They are not going to change their mind. The repetition of the idea shows their certainty. So when you hear this kind of parallel repetition, you know the speaker is not open to debate. They have made up their mind. Now, let us talk about something really interesting. Repetition can also be used to show doubt. Yes, it can show certainty, but it can also show the exact opposite. Imagine a woman named Sophie. She is talking to her husband, Mark. They are trying to remember the code to their garage door. Sophie says, "Is it 4321? Or is it 4322? 4321? 4322? I keep getting them mixed up." Mark says, "Just try 4321. Sophie types it in, and it does not work. She says, See, I told you. Maybe it is 4322. Let me try 4322. She repeats the numbers back and forth. This repetition shows confusion. It shows that she is unsure. When you hear someone repeating options back and forth like this, they are thinking out loud. They are trying to solve a problem in real time. If you are listening to someone do this, you should not interrupt them. Just let them repeat the options until they find the answer. It is a very human thing to do. We repeat things when we are confused because we are trying to hear which option sounds right. So if you hear a lot of repetition in a conversation, ask yourself, is this person sure or are they confused? The tone of their voice will tell you, but the repetition is the first clue. Let us look at another example of doubt. Imagine two students, Liam and Noah. They are studying for a science test. Liam says, "What is the capital of Australia? Is it Sydney? Sydney is the capital, right? Or is it Melbourne? I think it is Sydney." Noah says, "No, man, it is Canberra." Liam says, "Are you sure?" "Canberra. I really thought it was Sydney." "Sydney? Canberra? I am so confused." Liam repeats the city names because his brain is trying to delete the wrong information and save the right information. The repetition is the sound of his brain working. When you listen to English, you will hear this a lot when people are learning new things or when they are surprised by a fact. They will repeat the old fact and the new fact over and over. It is a sign that their brain is updating. It is actually a very beautiful part of listening because it shows you the learning process in real time. It makes the conversation feel alive and genuine. I want to make sure you understand how to practice this after you finish listening to me today. The best way to practice is to watch short videos of people talking. It could be a clip from a talk show or a short interview on YouTube. Watch it once without subtitles. Just listen. Do not try to understand every word. Only listen for repetition. When they repeat a word, write it down. Then watch the video again with subtitles and see if you were right. Did they repeat a word because they were angry? Did they repeat a word because they were happy? Did they repeat a word to give you a warning? If you do this with just 5 short videos, your ears will start to change. You will start to hear English differently. You will stop hearing a wall of noise, and you will start hearing the peaks and valleys of the conversation. You will hear the points where the speaker wants you to pay attention. That is the moment you cross from basic understanding to true fluency. True fluency is not just knowing words. True fluency is knowing what the speaker means behind the words. And repetition is one of the biggest keys to unlocking that hidden meaning. Let us do one more story together. This one is a little emotional. I want you to really put yourself in the shoes of the characters. Imagine a father, Daniel, and his daughter, Lily. Lily is 19 years old. She is packing her bags because she is moving to another city to go to university. Daniel is sitting on the edge of her bed. He is watching her fold her clothes. He feels sad because he is going to miss her. He says, "Lily, are you sure you have everything?" Lily says, "Yes, Dad. I have my clothes. I have my books. I have my tickets." Daniel says, "What about your warm jacket? It gets cold there. You need your warm jacket." Lily laughs and says, "Dad, I packed it yesterday. It is in the bottom of the suitcase." Daniel says, "Okay, good. You need that jacket. It is important." Daniel repeats the phrase, warm jacket and jacket. Why does he do this? He is not really talking about the jacket. The jacket is a symbol. He is using the jacket as an excuse to talk to her. He repeats it because he does not want the conversation to end. He is holding on to the last few minutes he has with his daughter before she leaves. This is a very deep and emotional use of repetition. When people are sad to say goodbye, they will often repeat small, unimportant details. They will ask about the weather, or about a jacket, or about a phone charger, over and over. They do this because the real emotion is too big to say out loud. It is much easier to say, "Do you have your jacket 3 times?" than it is to say, "I am breaking down inside because you are leaving." If you can learn to hear this kind of repetition, you will understand English speakers on a completely different level. You will feel their sadness, their love, and their hesitation. It turns a simple conversation into a piece of poetry. Let us finish the story with Daniel and Lily. Lily finishes packing. She zips up her suitcase. She turns around and looks at her dad. She can see that he is sad. She walks over and gives him a hug. She says, "I am going to be fine, Dad. I will call you every day. I will call you in the morning, and I will call you at night. You are going to get sick of my phone calls." Daniel laughs a little and says, "I will never get sick of your calls." Lily repeats, "I will call you," to reassure him. She knows he is worried. She uses repetition to build a bridge between them. She is saying, "Even though I am leaving, we are still connected." The repetition of the promise makes it feel stronger. When you hear someone make a promise and repeat it, they are trying to take away your fear. They are trying to make you feel safe. Listening for repeated promises is a great way to understand the emotional dynamics between two people. It shows you who is taking care of whom. We have looked at how repetition carries emotions like urgency and happiness, but I want to take you even deeper now because we are really just scratching the surface of how powerful this skill is. Once you start paying attention to repetition, you will notice that people use it to manage relationships too. It is not just about giving information. It is about controlling the flow of a conversation. Think about what happens when two people disagree. When someone wants to end an argument, or when they want to show that they will not change their mind, they use very sharp, short repetition. Imagine a scenario with 2 roommates. Their names are Ian and Marcus. Ian is asking Marcus if he can borrow Marcus's car for the weekend. Ian has a history of crashing cars, and Marcus knows this. Ian says, "Come on, Marcus, I just need it for a few hours. I will be so careful this time, I promise." Marcus looks at Ian and says, "No." Ian says, "But I really need it for a date." Marcus says, "No." I said no. The answer is no. Now, listen to how hard that sounds. Marcus does not give a long explanation. He does not say, "Well, I remember last time you scratched the door, so I would rather not." He just says, "No, no, no." When a speaker repeats a negative word like that, with no other words attached, they are building a wall. They are shutting down the conversation. They are saying, "Do not try to persuade me. My decision is final." If you are listening to 2 people having a discussion, and one person starts repeating a refusal, you know the negotiation is over. The listener in real life needs to hear that and back off. If you keep pushing when someone repeats the word no, you will make them angry. So this type of repetition is actually a social warning sign. It tells you to stop and change the subject. On the completely opposite side of that, we have repetition used for total disbelief. When someone hears something shocking, their brain stops working for a second and the only thing it can do is repeat the last thing it heard to try and process it. Imagine two friends sitting in a cafe. Their names are Hazel and Owen. Hazel is a quiet person who never does anything wild. Owen is her best friend. Hazel sits down, takes a sip of her coffee, and says, "I bought a motorcycle." Owen spills his coffee a little bit and says, "You bought a what?" Hazel says, "A motorcycle." "I bought a motorcycle yesterday." Owen says, "A motorcycle? You? You bought a motorcycle." Hazel says, "Yes." Owen says, "I do not believe it. A motorcycle." Owen repeats the word motorcycle 4 times. He is not doing it to be annoying. He is doing it because his brain cannot put the word motorcycle and the image of Hazel together. When you hear someone repeat a shocking noun as a question, they are expressing pure surprise. They are telling you that you have completely blown their mind. This is a really fun one to listen for in movies or television shows. When a character gets surprising news, you will almost always hear them repeat the noun in a high-pitched voice. It is a universal human reaction. So if you want to sound more natural when you speak English, and someone tells you something crazy, do not just say, "Oh, really?" Say the crazy thing back to them. Say, "You got promoted? You actually got promoted?" It makes you sound so much more engaged in the conversation. But we have to be careful here, because repetition can also be used to make fun of someone. We call this sarcasm, and it is one of the hardest things to understand in English. Sarcasm relies completely on the tone of your voice, combined with repetition. Let me give you an example. Imagine a couple, Nina and Theo. They are cooking dinner together. Theo is supposed to be stirring the soup, but he is looking at his phone. Suddenly, the soup boils over and makes a huge mess all over the stove. Nina walks in, sees the mess, and says, "Great, just great. That is just absolutely great." Now, if you were just reading those words on paper, you might think Nina is happy. The word great is a positive word. But because she repeats it, and because her voice goes down at the end of the sentence, it means the exact opposite. She is furious. She is saying, "This is a disaster." When positive words are repeated with a flat or angry tone, they become negative. This is a massive part of B1 listening practice because textbooks will not teach you this. You have to hear it. Theo knows he is in trouble. He says, "I am so sorry. I just looked away for 1 second." Nina says, "1 second. Right. 1 second." Again, she repeats his excuse back to him, but she does not mean it literally. She means, "I do not believe your excuse at all." When you hear someone repeat your excuse back to you in a short, flat voice, they are calling you a liar. They are saying, "That is a terrible excuse, and I am not accepting it." If you can train your ears to hear this sarcastic repetition, you will avoid so many misunderstandings. You will know when someone is actually praising you and when they are secretly annoyed with you. Let us look at another side of human conversation. Sometimes people repeat words because they are buying time. They do not know what to say next, so they just repeat the last thing you said to keep the conversation alive. This happens a lot in job interviews or when someone is nervous on a date. Imagine a young man named Ben. He is on a first date with a woman named Clara. Clara is very confident and talks a lot. Clara says, "So I have been traveling a lot lately. I went to Spain last year, and I am planning to go to Japan next spring." Ben is very nervous. He wants to seem interested, but his brain is moving slowly. He says, "Japan. Wow, Japan. That is so cool, Japan." Ben repeats Japan 3 times. Is he trying to emphasize a point? No. Is he being sarcastic? No. He is just buying time. He is repeating the word because it is the only word he has in his head right now. He is trying to stop an awkward silence. When you listen to someone doing this, you should feel empathy for them. You should realize that they are nervous. If you are the one speaking, and the other person is just repeating your words back to you with blank eyes, it means you need to slow down. You need to ask them a question and take some of the pressure off them. This is a brilliant social skill to have. By listening to their repetition, you can understand their emotional state, and then you can help them feel more comfortable. There is another type of repetition that is extremely common, and it happens when we are trying to justify a mistake. When we know we did something wrong, but we want to make it sound like it was not our fault, we repeat our excuses. We pile them up. Imagine a worker named Kevin. He is late to his office. His boss, Diana, is waiting for him. Diana says, "Kevin, you are 40 minutes late." "What happened?" Kevin puts his bag down and says, "I am so sorry. The traffic was terrible. The traffic on the highway was completely stopped. There was an accident, and the traffic was just backed up for miles. I could not move because of the traffic." Kevin says the word traffic 4 times. He is building a fortress out of that word. He wants the word traffic to be a shield that protects him from getting in trouble. He is hoping that if he says it enough times, Diana will stop being mad and just blame the road instead of him. When you listen to English speakers making excuses, count how many times they repeat the external problem. The weather, the traffic, the bus, the alarm clock. The more they repeat it, the more you know they feel guilty. They are trying to convince you that they are not the bad guy. So as a listener, you can smile to yourself and think, "I hear you blaming the traffic, but I know you just overslept." It gives you a very clear window into human behavior. Now let us talk about something that happens in every single friendship in the world. We repeat words to show agreement. But we do not just say yes. We say yes, exactly, totally, absolutely. We string positive words together to show the other person that we are on their side. Imagine 2 friends, Mia and Olivia. They are talking about a movie they both hated. Mia says, "I cannot believe we wasted 2 hours watching that movie. The ending made no sense at all." Olivia says, "Exactly. It made no sense. None. The whole movie was just a mess." Mia says, "Right. A total mess. I was so bored." Olivia says, "So bored. So bored." Listen to how they bounce the words back and forth. They are echoing each other. This is called conversational mirroring, and it is the glue that holds friendships together. When you mirror someone's words, you are telling them, "I am with you, I understand you, we feel the same way." If you are practicing your English listening, you will hear this in casual conversations all the time. People will say, "I know, right? Exactly. For sure." They are not giving you new information. They are just using repetition to build a bridge of agreement between you. If you want to sound like a native speaker, you have to do this too. Do not just sit quietly when someone tells you a story. Give them back their words. If they say, "It was a long day," you say, "A long day." Tell me about it. It makes the conversation feel warm and alive. Let us move into a slightly different area now. I want to talk about how repetition helps us with directions and instructions. Have you ever been lost in a foreign city and asked someone for help? When people give directions, they use a very specific type of repetition to make sure you do not get lost again. Imagine a tourist named Jack. He is lost in London. He stops a local woman named Mary. Jack says, "Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to the British Museum?" Mary says, "Of course. You need to walk straight down this road. Straight down. Do not turn left or right, just go straight. When you see the big park, go past the park. Walk past the park. Then you will see a red phone box. Turn left at the phone box. Left. And the museum is right there." Mary repeats straight, past the park, and left. Why? Because she knows Jack is a tourist. She knows his brain is overloaded with new sights and sounds. She repeats the key navigation words to force them into his memory. She does not care about the buildings or the weather. She only repeats the actions he needs to take. When you are listening to directions in English, you do not need to understand the whole sentence. You just need to catch the repeated action words. Walk straight, turn left, go past. If you hear a word twice in a direction sentence, that is the word you need to write down. It is your lifeline. This works the exact same way when someone is teaching you how to do something practical. Imagine a man named Thomas is teaching his neighbor Peter how to change a flat tire on a car. Thomas says, "First, you need to loosen the nuts. Do not take them off, just loosen them. Loosen them a little bit." Peter says, "Okay, just loosen them." Thomas says, "Right." Then you use the jack to lift the car. Lift it slowly. Lift it until the tire is off the ground. Peter says, "Lift it slowly." Thomas says, "Exactly." Now you can take the nuts off. Take them all the way off and put them in your pocket. Put them in your pocket so you do not lose them. Thomas repeats, loosen, lift, and put them in your pocket. He is highlighting the most critical steps. If Peter skips those steps, the tire will fall off the car. So Thomas uses repetition as a safety net. When you are listening to instructions, whether it is a cooking video, a DIY tutorial, or a guide on how to use a software program, the speaker will always repeat the most important steps. They are practically giving you the answers to the test. You just have to be quiet and listen for the repeated verbs. I want to talk about negative repetition now. We have talked about positive repetition for good news. But what happens when someone gets really bad news? How do they react? When people receive terrible news, their brains often reject it. They use repetition to try and deny the reality. Imagine a woman named Susan. She is sitting in her living room. Her husband, Paul, comes home from the doctor. Paul sits down next to her and says, "Susan," the doctor called, "I have to have surgery on my heart. It is serious." Susan looks at him and says, "Surgery?" Paul says, "Yes, surgery. Next week." Susan says, "Surgery. No, 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 not surgery. You cannot have surgery." Susan repeats the word surgery, but then she adds the word no. She is fighting the word. She is trying to push the reality away. When you hear someone repeat a terrible word followed by a negative word, like no or not, you are hearing denial. You are hearing someone's brain breaking under stress. It is a very intense thing to listen to, but it is a massive part of understanding spoken English. If you watch dramatic movies or read sad stories, you will see this pattern all the time. The word repeats become faster and higher pitched, and then the person usually starts crying or panicking. It shows you the exact moment a person's world changes. By recognizing this pattern, you are no longer just learning English. You are learning human psychology through the English language. Let us look at a lighter form of negative repetition. Have you ever tried to convince someone to do something fun and they keep saying the same negative word over and over? Imagine a dad, Robert, trying to get his teenage son, Ryan, out of bed on a Saturday morning to go hiking. Robert opens the door and says, "Come on, Ryan, get up. It is a beautiful day." Ryan pulls the blanket over his head and says, "No." Robert says, "We are going to miss the sunrise." Ryan says, "No." Robert says, "I will buy you breakfast on the way." Ryan says, "No." Robert says, "Your friends are going to be there." Ryan says, "No, no, no, no." Ryan is using repetition as a shield. He is not negotiating. He is not explaining why he is tired. He is just using the word no as a brick wall. When you hear a child or a teenager do this, you know they are refusing to engage. They are shutting down the conversation. But adults do this too, sometimes in a more polite way. Imagine a woman named Linda. Her coworker, Steve, asks her to work on Saturday. Linda says, "Oh, Steve, I would love to, but I cannot." Steve says, "It will only be for a few hours." Linda says, "I know, but I cannot. I really cannot." Steve says, "I will pay you overtime." Linda says, "It is not about the money. I just cannot." Linda repeats, "I cannot." She is being polite, but she is still using the exact same brick wall that Ryan used with his blanket. The repetition of the refusal is a polite way of saying, "Stop asking me. The answer will never change." If you are in a business setting and you hear someone repeat a refusal 3 times, you need to stop pushing. If you keep asking, you will look rude. Now, I want to talk about something I absolutely love about the English language. We repeat words to build anticipation. Think about a sports commentator or a friend telling you about an exciting event. They will repeat a phrase to make you lean in closer. Imagine 2 friends, Chris and James. Chris just got tickets to see his favorite band. He runs up to James and says, "Guess what?" James says, "What?" Chris says, "You will never guess. You will never ever guess what I just did." James says, "What did you do?" Chris says, "I got tickets. I got the tickets. I actually got the tickets to the concert." Chris repeats, "I got tickets," but he adds words in the middle to slow the sentence down. You will never, ever guess. He repeats the word ever to stretch out the time. He is making James wait for the good news. This is called delayed repetition. The speaker makes you wait for the repeated word. They put space between the repetitions to build the excitement. When you hear someone stretching out their sentences like this, you know they are about to say something amazing. It is the verbal equivalent of a drum roll. If you can hear that drum roll, you will feel the excitement of the conversation, even if you do not understand every single word they are saying. Your brain will know that something big is coming. Let us look at how this works in a different context. Imagine a mother, Kate, talking to her young daughter, Zoe. Zoe is eating dinner, and she is not using her fork. Kate says, "Zoe, what are you doing?" Zoe says, "Using my fingers." Kate says, "And what are you supposed to use?" Zoe says, "My fork." Kate says, "And where is your fork?" Zoe points to the table. Kate says, "So what should you do?" Zoe picks up her fork. Kate uses a repetitive questioning technique. She repeats the concept of the fork over and over, but she changes the question slightly each time. What are you doing? What are you supposed to use? Where is it? What should you do? This is a guiding repetition. She is walking Zoe step by step to the correct behavior. She does not just say, "Pick up your fork." She uses repetition to make Zoe think it was her own idea. You will hear parents and teachers do this all the time with children. But you know what? Managers do it in offices too. A boss might say, "What is the problem here?" Why is it a problem? How can we fix the problem? They repeat the word problem to keep the employee focused on the issue. When you are listening to a meeting, if you hear a leader repeating a key word in their questions, you know exactly what their main goal is. They are using repetition to steer the room in the direction they want it to go. It is a very subtle form of leadership, and it is fascinating to listen to. I want to shift gears slightly and talk about repetition in apologies. When someone is truly sorry for something, they do not just say, "I am sorry" once. They say it in different ways, and they repeat the emotion behind it. Imagine a boy named Ryan. He accidentally broke his sister's favorite vase. His sister, Emma, is crying. Ryan says, "I am so sorry. I am really, really sorry. I did not mean to break it. I feel terrible. I am so sorry." Ryan repeats, "I am sorry," but he also adds, "I feel terrible." He is trying to match the intensity of her sadness with the intensity of his apology. He wants her to feel that his apology is as big as her pain. If he just said sorry quickly and walked away, she would think he did not care. The repetition of the apology shows that he is willing to sit in the uncomfortable feeling with her until she forgives him. When you listen to English speakers apologizing, the length of their repetition tells you how genuine they are. A quick sorry means it was a small mistake. A long, repeated apology with words like terrible, awful, and so sorry means they are carrying a lot of guilt. It is a very honest way to measure someone's feelings. Let us do one more story about excitement, but this time we will look at a group dynamic. When a group of people get excited together, the repetition becomes chaotic and wonderful. Imagine a family living room. A mother, father, and two kids are sitting around a computer. The father, David, is checking an email. He suddenly screams, "We got it!" The mother, Sarah, says, "Got what?" David says, "The house! We got the house!" Sarah screams, "We got the house!" The kids start jumping up and down yelling, "We got the house! We got the house!" Within 5 seconds, the phrase "we got the house" is repeated 6 times by 4 different people. This is called contagious repetition. It spreads like a fire. One person strikes the match, and suddenly everyone is saying the same words. When you watch English movies and a team wins a championship, or a couple gets engaged in public, you will hear this contagious repetition. Everyone starts chanting the same phrase. It is a bonding experience. It makes the group feel like one single organism. An English learner, you might not be able to jump into a conversation fast enough to join the chanting, but you can definitely feel the energy of it. And understanding that energy is a huge part of listening comprehension. You are not just hearing words, you are hearing a community celebrate. I want to take you to the absolute highest level of this skill now. I want to talk about how the speed of the repetition changes everything. So far, we have talked about what words people repeat, but we have not talked about how fast or slow they say them. The speed of the repetition is a secret code that tells you exactly what is happening in a person's heart. Let me explain what I mean. Think about a grandmother named Agnes. She is sitting on a porch, looking at an old photograph. Her grandson, Toby, walks up and asks her what she is looking at. Agnes says, "This is a picture of my mother. She was beautiful. So beautiful. She had the kindest eyes you ever saw." Listen to how slow that is. Agnes repeats the word beautiful and the phrase kindest eyes, but she says them slowly. There is a pause between them. When someone repeats words slowly, with a soft voice, they are feeling nostalgic. They are feeling love. They are reaching into the past and pulling a memory into the present. The slow repetition is a sign of peace. Now compare that to a completely different situation. Imagine a man named Frank. He is trying to assemble a desk from a furniture store. He has been working on it for 3 hours. He drops a screw on the floor, and it rolls under the sofa. Frank says, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I just dropped the screw. I dropped the screw." Frank repeats, "Are you kidding me?" And I dropped the screw. But he says them fast. He says them with a high, tight voice. Fast repetition means panic. It means frustration. It means the person is losing control of the situation. When you are listening to English, you do not even need to know the words. If you hear fast repetition, you know the person is stressed. If you hear slow repetition, you know the person is relaxed. Your ears can pick up the emotion through the rhythm alone. Let us look at another way. Speed changes the meaning. We talked about sarcasm earlier, but I want to give you one more example because it is so common in daily life. Imagine two friends, Wendy and Greg. Wendy is telling Greg about a terrible hotel she stayed at. Wendy says, "The room was tiny. There was barely space for the bed." Greg says, "Wow, sounds luxurious. Sounds absolutely luxurious." Greg repeats the word luxurious, but he stretches it out. He says it slowly and puts a lot of fake emphasis on it. Luxurious. When a positive word is stretched out and repeated slowly in a negative context, it is extreme sarcasm. It is a joke. He is making fun of how bad the hotel is. So just remember, slow repetition is usually for love and nostalgia, but if the word does not fit the situation, slow repetition becomes a joke. Fast repetition is almost always negative. It is panic, anger, or high stress. If you can start sorting the repetition you hear into fast and slow, your listening comprehension will become incredibly sharp. You will understand the mood of the room instantly. Now I want to talk about something that happens in business all the time. It is called the summary repetition. When a meeting is coming to an end, or when a teacher is finishing a lesson, they will repeat the main point to make sure everyone understood. This is the easiest type of repetition to catch because it always happens at the end of a conversation. Imagine a manager named Donna. She is talking to her team about a new project. She talks for 10 minutes about the goals, the timeline, and the budget. At the very end, she says, "So to wrap this up, we need to finish the report by Friday. Friday is the deadline. Remember, Friday. We cannot miss Friday." Donna repeats Friday 3 times at the end of her speech. She is not adding new information. She is taking all the details she just said and shrinking them down into one single repeated word. When you are watching a presentation or listening to a lecture in English, you do not need to understand every word in the middle. If you just wait for the end, the speaker will repeat the most important takeaway for you. They will literally hand you the summary on a silver platter. Teachers do this constantly. A teacher will say, "So remember, class, photosynthesis is how plants make food. Plants make food through photosynthesis." That is the key point. If you are taking a test or just trying to learn, wait for the end of the paragraph. Wait for the summary repetition. It will save you so much mental energy. But what about persuasion? How do people use repetition to make you buy something or agree with a crazy idea? When someone wants to convince you, they will repeat the benefit of their idea over and over. They will not repeat the problems. They will only repeat the good parts. Imagine a man named Victor. He is trying to convince his wife, Rose, to go on a camping trip. Rose hates camping. Victor says, "It will be so relaxing, Rose. Just relaxing. No phones, no emails, just pure relaxation. And the air is so fresh. You have never breathed air this fresh. It is fresh air. Just fresh air." Victor repeats relaxing and fresh air. He is painting a beautiful picture in her head. He wants her to focus only on those two things. He knows if he repeats them enough, she might start to believe him. Salespeople do this professionally. If you go into a store to buy a phone, the salesperson will say, "This phone is fast. It is incredibly fast. You have never seen a phone this fast." They repeat fast because they know that is the word that makes you want to buy it. When you are listening to a commercial, or a political speech, or a friend trying to convince you to do something, count the positive adjectives they repeat. That list of repeated adjectives is their entire strategy. If you can see the strategy, you will not be easily tricked. You will be able to listen and say, "I see what you are doing. You are just repeating the word fast, so I buy this phone." Let us move into a really fascinating area of listening. I want to talk about back-channeling. This is a fancy word for the little noises and repeated words we use when someone else is talking. When you are listening to someone tell a story, you are not supposed to be completely silent. If you are silent, the speaker will think you are bored, or that you do not understand. So we use back-channeling to show we are alive and listening. Imagine a woman named Nora. She is telling her friend Ian about a bad date she had. Nora says, "So he took me to this restaurant, and he was so rude to the waiter." Ian says, "Really?" Nora says, "Yes. He yelled at the waiter because his soup was cold." Ian says, "Wow," Nora says, "and then he complained about the bill. He actually complained about a $20 bill." Ian says, "$20? Nora says, "Yes, $20. Ian says, "Unbelievable." Look at what Ian is doing. He is not telling his own story. He is just repeating parts of Nora's story back to her as questions. "Really? Wow. $20? Unbelievable." This is the music of a good conversation. Ian is using tiny repetitions to keep the rhythm going. He is telling Nora, "I am here. Keep talking. I understand." When you are practicing your speaking, you must learn to do this. But when you are practicing your listening, you need to realize that these back-channel repetitions are not the main point. They are just nodding your head with your voice. Do not get confused by them. Just let them flow past you and keep listening to the main speaker. I want to give you one final really long story to tie all of this together. This is going to be our big practice moment. I want you to imagine a wedding reception. It is evening. There are fairy lights hanging in the trees. People are drinking champagne and eating cake. Two cousins, Beth and Chloe, are standing near the dance floor. They are watching the bride and groom. Beth is the emotional one. Chloe is the practical one. Let us listen to their conversation and spot every single type of repetition we have learned about today. Beth says, "Look at them, Chloe. They look so happy." So happy. Chloe says, "They do look happy." Beth says, "I remember when they first met. It was at that coffee shop. That little coffee shop on the corner. I told you about it, remember? The coffee shop." Beth is repeating coffee shop. Why? She is feeling nostalgic. The slow repetition shows she is thinking about a good memory. Chloe says, "Right, the coffee shop. You told me that story 100 times." Beth says, "I know, but it was so romantic. He spilled his coffee on her. He was so nervous. So nervous." Here, Beth repeats, "so nervous." She is using it to emphasize how cute the groom was. She is building the romantic feeling. Chloe says, "Yeah, well, he is not nervous now. Look at him dancing. He looks like an idiot." Beth says, "Stop it. He does not look like an idiot. He looks great. He looks perfect." Beth repeats, "He looks great and perfect." She is using repetition to defend the groom. She is pushing back against Chloe's negativity. When someone repeats positive words right after you say a negative word, they are disagreeing with you. They are trying to erase your negative comment with their positive repetition. Let us keep listening to Beth and Chloe. Chloe takes a sip of her champagne and says, "I just hope they can pay for all this. This wedding must have cost a fortune." A fortune. Chloe repeats a fortune. What kind of repetition is this? This is complaining and shock. She is emphasizing the size of the problem. Beth says, "Do not worry about the money. It is their day, their special day. Do not ruin their special day by talking about money." Beth repeats special day. She is using repetition to refocus the conversation. She wants Chloe to stop talking about money and remember why they are there. The repeated phrase, special day, acts like a steering wheel. Beth is turning the conversation back to the emotion. Chloe says, "Fine, fine. I am just saying. I hope they are happy. I really hope they are happy." Chloe repeats, "I hope they are happy." But notice her tone. It is a little flat. This is not pure excitement. This is a slightly worried hope. She is repeating it to convince herself. When someone repeats a hopeful phrase with a flat tone, they are actually expressing doubt. Beth senses this. Beth says, "They will be. They will be happy. Trust me. I know they will be." Beth repeats they will be happy to reassure Chloe. She mirrors the phrase but adds, "Trust me," to make it stronger. Do you see how much information is packed into just a few repeated words? If you were just translating this conversation into your native language, you would miss all the pushing and pulling. You would miss Beth trying to protect the romantic mood. You would miss Chloe's hidden worry about money. But because you are now listening for the repetition, you can hear the real conversation happening underneath the words. You can hear the psychology of the two cousins. Let us finish their conversation. The music changes to a slow song. Beth grabs Chloe's arm. Beth says, "Oh my goodness, this is our song. This is the song we danced to at prom. Do you remember? This is the song." Beth repeats, "This is the song." She is excited. The repetition is fast and high-pitched. It is contagious excitement, just like we talked about earlier. Chloe smiles and says, "Oh wow, it is. It really is the song. I cannot believe you remember that." Chloe echoes the repetition. This is conversational mirroring. She is matching Beth's energy to show agreement and friendship. Then they both stop talking, and they just listen to the music for a second. The repetition has done its job. It brought them together. It synced their emotions. This is the magic of spoken English. It is not just a tool for sharing facts. It is a tool for connecting human souls. When you understand how repetition works, you stop feeling like an outsider looking through a window at English speakers. You start feeling like you are in the room with them. You can feel the warmth of Beth's nostalgia. You can feel the slight coldness of Chloe's worry. You are no longer just hearing English. You are feeling English. And that is the ultimate goal of everything we do here on English in Fluency. I want to leave you with a very specific homework assignment before we say goodbye. I want you to find an English song, any song you like. Put your headphones on and listen to the lyrics. Songwriters are the masters of repetition. They repeat the chorus because they know that is the most emotional part of the song. They repeat a single line at the end of a verse to make it stick in your head. Listen to how the singer's voice changes when they repeat the chorus. Does it get louder? Does it get softer? Does it break with emotion? Take a notebook and write down the words they repeat. Then ask yourself why. Why did the songwriter want you to hear that specific line 3 times? What emotion are they trying to force into your heart? If you do this with just 3 songs, you will start to realize that music and spoken conversation are exactly the same. They both use repetition as a heartbeat. They both use it to make you feel something powerful. I also want you to try a speaking exercise this week. I want you to record a voice memo on your phone. Just talk for 2 minutes about your favorite hobby. But here is the trick. I want you to intentionally repeat the most important word in every sentence. If your hobby is cooking, say something like, I love cooking. Cooking is my favorite thing to do. When I am cooking, I feel relaxed. I really, really love cooking. It will feel strange at first. You will feel like you are being dramatic. But that is exactly the point. You are stretching your comfort zone. You are teaching your mouth to do what native speakers do naturally. After you record it, listen back to it. Notice how the repeated words give your speaking a rhythm. Notice how it makes your simple sentences sound much more confident. If you do this every day for a week, I promise you that your fluency will take a massive jump. Your mouth will get used to the feeling of emphasizing words, and your ears will automatically start listening for it when other people speak. I am sitting here right now, and I am just so incredibly proud of the work you have done today. Learning a language is not easy. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of courage to sit and listen to a lesson that is entirely in English, especially when we are talking about deep psychological things like emotions and sarcasm. But you stuck with it. You listened to Maya and Julian rush for the cake. You listened to Emma get her dream job. You listened to Daniel say goodbye to Lily. You listened to Beth and Chloe at the wedding. You have absorbed so much English today without even realizing it because you were focused on the emotion instead of the grammar. That is the secret. That is the magic trick to fluency. Stop studying the rules and start studying the people. The people who speak English are just like you. They get nervous, they get excited, they get sarcastic, they get nostalgic, and they use repetition to show all of those feelings. Now you have the key to unlock all of it. I want to remind you that you are part of a beautiful community here. You are not alone in this. There are thousands of people watching this video right now from all over the world who are on the exact same journey as you. They are feeling the same doubts and the same victories. If you take 1 second right now to leave a comment below, you will connect with those people. Tell us where you are from. Tell us about a time when you misunderstood someone because you did not realize they were using sarcasm or repetition. Read the comments from other people and know that you are part of a global family of English learners. And if you want to help this channel grow, please hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing, but it tells the internet that this channel is helping people, and it helps me reach more students just like you. Share this video in your group chats. Send it to a friend who is struggling with listening. Be the person who helps someone else have a breakthrough today. I am Alex, and this has been English in Fluency. I will be back very soon with another deep dive into the real, human side of the English language. Until then, keep your ears open. Listen for the echoes. Listen for the repeated words. And every time you hear one, smile to yourself, because you will know exactly what the speaker is trying to say. You have an incredible skill now, so go out there and use it. Have a wonderful day. Keep practicing, and I will see you in the next video.